Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 474 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. Good to be with you, as always. How's your life going? Is it overall really good with just a few ups and downs here and there that are normal and you can't live without them? Are you more often happy than you are sad? More often at peace than you are anxious? If you're not, there may be some subtle thoughts or things that are holding you back just a little bit. We tend to think it's just the way life's supposed to be. But really, it should be mostly fun with normal highs and lows here and there to remind us that we're alive, right? But with social media, we often have the idea that everyone else's life is so perfect and ours is just a train wreck. I mean, it's easy to think that, but it simply isn't the case. It's just that we all handle things in our own way, and maybe the way we handle them or the things we think about them make it just a little harder than it needs to be. We had a wonderful time this weekend spending time with family at the lake. I talked a little bit about it on the podcast before, but Molly's in-laws, my little sister Molly's in-laws, live in this gorgeous home right on the lake just outside of Nashville. And they invited us to spend a weekend there along with Eric's sister and her husband. And we did it last year as well. Just a really fun weekend with family. And in my mind, there's just nothing better. Now, if you're like me and someone tells you of their story of a wonderful weekend like that, then you can conjure in your mind visions of big fun family dinners, fun boating outings, bonfires with s'mores, maybe early morning coffee chats overlooking the lake. All of those things you create in your mind of what your idea of how a perfect lake weekend would look to you. Now, maybe you also think, well, it would be nice if I had someone that had a lake house we could go to, or it would be nice if all my family could get together, but so-and-so, of course, would ruin it for everyone else. Or maybe you think you couldn't pay me to spend an entire weekend with family at the lake. You know, the normal things a human brain left on autopilot comes up with. Now, for me, those aren't really my thoughts. My thoughts were more leading up to the weekend. I've kind of considered myself to be somewhat of a peacemaker, and there are still remnants of that. I guess old habits die hard. So I noticed leading up to the weekend, I was having thoughts about how the weekend would go, worrying just a little bit about certain personalities and how they would jive, and hoping that this person would do this or that, and this other person wouldn't do this or that, and how it would stress me out if they did. You know, if everyone just acted the way I wanted them to so that my weekend would go stress-free. And of course, as I've been working on noticing how my thoughts affect my outcomes, I noticed that I was almost creating things in advance. We don't want to do that. So instead of creating scenarios that could create stress, I just envisioned how I wanted it to go. And I remember that the only thing about the weekend that I control is how I act and how I think. And so I let go of the idea that I can make anyone else's weekend better by worrying about what certain people would or wouldn't do. And guess what? The weekend went really well. And there were little things that people said or did that I wouldn't have chosen, but I didn't try to manage it. I just accepted that their experience is of their making, and it doesn't have to affect me unless I let it. But their consequences are also theirs as well. At one point, we were at a restaurant on the water. It's so cool because we take the boat to dinner and back. I love it. Now, it's obviously a really popular restaurant. It's called the Marina, or it's right on the Marina. But man, was it packed. It's one of those restaurants that doesn't take reservations, so it's first come, first served. Now, we knew that, so we got there super early because we know it'll get busy, but also because we also like to take the boat to a certain spot and watch the sunset after dinner, so you kind of got to get there early to do that. So anyway, we get there and we get a table right away, which is awesome. And we have a really fun dinner listening to music and enjoying each other's company. And when it gets time for us we're about get ready to pack up and leave, Molly, my little sister, and I love to feed the fish. They have fish food you can buy from this little machine, and it's one of our favorite things to do. We could actually do it for an hour. So we're over there feeding the fish, which is right in the area by the front entry to the restaurant. It's a Saturday night. And let me tell you something. I was shocked at the amount of people waiting for a table. And at one point, my brother-in-law walked out. He was heading to the restaurant, and he saw all the people waiting there, and he comes over to me, and he and Molly, he was like, hey, why don't you go see if we can go ahead and get everyone up from our table because we're done, and then another family can sit down to eat because there's so many people. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. Okay, so I head back to the table and everyone's already paid, so we're done. And I said, hey, let's let someone else have this table. I tell them about all the people waiting to eat. Well, one of my family members, I'm not going to call them out, but one of them said, well, isn't that their problem? I mean, they should have gotten here early. What did they think on a Saturday night at 7? Now, I was like, oh, come on now. But in the back of my mind, I thought, isn't that interesting? The varying personalities. One of my family members was really concerned and wanted to let others go ahead and sit down, and the other really didn't care at all and made that pretty clear. Now, I would like to put the question out to you that if you were to guess which one of those people has more friends, more of a social life, which one would you guess? I mean, just purely off the knowing of that mentality where the one that was looking out and concerned for others and the other was looking out for themselves. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because most of us just know innately that it's the one that's showing graciousness to other people that have more friends and more of a social life. We always get back what we put out. Now, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I love all my family, and they're all good people. But it is true that you get back what you put out. The life that we have created is the life that is started. It starts in your head. I mean, therefore, that famous adage, as within, so without. And people like to be around enjoyable people. And if you're not enjoyable, you may notice the invites dry up. And if that's been happening, it may be time for a little bit of self-evaluation, because your life is what you make of it. And if you find yourself complaining more often than not, or having negative thoughts about people more often than not, again, it's probably a good time for some self-evaluation, especially with family. No one's responsible for your happiness but you. So that responsibility lies solely with you. And a big part of our happiness, though, in life is watching other people be happy and knowing maybe we had a little something to do with that by being gracious whenever we can, and also not expecting others to change to make us happy. So if a situation arises where you feel the need to step away for your own sanity, then that's what you got to do. I mean, at one point over this last weekend at the lake, we were hanging out on the dock and the music was just a little louder than I like, and things are a little more chaotic than I prefer. And so I just decided to use that moment to take the kayak out for a relaxing ride all on my own. Sometimes you're a guest and you have no control of the situation, so you got to control what you can and step away if you need to. So my experience over the weekend and at any time in my life is of my own making. The thing I can do is be exactly who I am, just be authentic and loving and try to focus on the good in everyone around me and be really gracious when I can and step away when I need to. Everyone else was enjoying the music playing, so instead of me complaining or being upset about it, I just removed myself by going on a long kayak ride. Problem solved on my end. I've been talking about that a lot lately, I know, but taking care of things on our end is one of the best things we can do for ourselves. If you haven't noticed, you actually live in two worlds. We all have both an inner and an outer world. Some like to live more in their inner world, and others don't want to live there at all. But John Marks Templeton says that in order to be happy, well-integrated people, we have to function in both worlds with ease and satisfaction. To live successfully in the outer world, we need to live successfully in the inner world. That's what that saying means, as within, so without. It means that what appears in our outer world, our friends, our jobs, our opportunities, career, that all reflects what's happening inside ourselves. It's a pretty good gauge of where our head's at, so to speak. My challenge to you this week is to do a little self-evaluation. Are there some areas in your outer world that are struggling because of what you have going on in your inner world? If there are, you have to clean up your inner world first before their outer world can ever follow suit. Share this with 3 of the first people who come to your mind. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.